Over the past 2.5 years, I've gone from having £8,000 in credit card debt across two cards to now having no credit card debt and my emergency savings built and being in a much more financially stable place. And what I want to do is go over exactly how I did this and also, really importantly, I think, how it felt, how I got to change the money habits that put me in £8,000 credit card debt to being with money habits and having a way of managing my money now, which is much healthier, essentially, and like what I've learned in that experience, basically. So, hi, if you're new, I'm Beth. I have a 2.5-year-old daughter. I work full time, so does my partner. I'm 27 years old, and I've had to teach myself everything I know about money. I was not taught anything. I was given no kind of awareness of positive money habits, so I didn't like grow up in an environment where I would see that. I knew kind of month to month living. I never knew about kind of what it actually means to be financially stable, I suppose. Like, I have recently, and I think we've all seen online, a lot of stuff around financial freedom and, you know, getting a 6-figure salary or having like your first 100,000 saved, becoming like a multi-billionaire with this successful business. Like, I see a lot of that, but I don't see a lot of this just everyday living, like real life, real money. How I went from it being absolutely awful and so stressful to now being in a place of financial stability. And genuinely, I think it's that journey that is just so important to know of and to speak on, because I really don't think I'm the only one who's been through that. I don't think I'm the only one who's came out the back of a pandemic with a baby and has had this cost of living experience and has just ended up having to rely on credit cards. Like, it's a very, very stressful time. It's really scary as well, and there is so much that I've learned through it, and I just want to bring this kind of that real life, real money aspect online. I think it could be of value, or I hope it is. So let's go into exactly kind of what initially made me want to pay off all of my credit card debt. So to give you an idea of where I was at, basically I would essentially live beyond my means. I didn't know what was coming in to the exact amount. I didn't know what was going out to the exact amount. I didn't know. I had like a feeling of money, and my feeling of money was always that I'd find a way, or I'd be able to take on that bill, or if that happened, that was fine. But really it wasn't, because I was relying on money that was costing me money to use. You know, I was relying on money that was on a credit card that was really high interest to pay off. So what I kind of realized was that I needed to be in a place where, once I looked at my income and outgoings, which is the first step, was to just not ignore my money. Like, I realized I needed to be able to face the position I was in. It was awful, it was a horrendous position to be in, but the more I hid from it, the more I didn't want to look at my banking app, the more I didn't want to know how much was on my credit cards. The more I went into that, the less likely I was going to be able to actually sort it out or get myself to the other side at all. Like, I had to face the mess, essentially. So that's what I did. I basically collated exactly what was coming in, exactly what was going out, and all of the money that I owed, like, on these credit cards. And I built myself a really good, clear picture in one view of what that looked like. And that was huge, because that set me up with this, like, very clear picture of, like, here's the negative that you're in, here's the bad kind of summary of your financial state that you have, here's that summary of, like, here's the bad finances that you've got. But I was then able to, I don't know, it was like demystifying it for myself, if that makes sense. Like, I would never have been able to make a plan to pay off those credit cards if I just had a rough estimate of, like, oh, well, if I overpay 100 this month, I'm sure that will take some of that credit card off, or, you know, this month I might have like 200, but I'll do that. Or I got to the end of the month, I need to actually spend 100 again on my credit card. Like, I had no plan, I had no concept of where things were at all. So getting into that one view was huge, and it began me on this path that I didn't know I was going to get on, which was making me a lot less scared of money. And this is why I can't recommend enough actually just facing what financial situation you're in, as awful and as stressful as it might be, because it really, really, really helped me not be fearful of money and to work on that kind of feeling of scarcity and that feeling of stress associated with it. It kind of got me started with it. It still has taken time. I still sometimes stress, of course I do, and I want to say that because I do think it's normal. I don't think you're always going to live in this bliss of just never having to ever worry of whatever coming out your bank account, or at least maybe not in my lifetime. But yeah, getting that one view, beginning to face my financial position, and then from that point being able to plan clearly was just such a good starting off point. And I think it's really worth mentioning here as well that I could have done that a lot sooner. Okay, I had £8,000 on a credit card, and I was in that position for a little while. I don't remember how long, but maybe, you know, over a month at least, like a few months, a couple of months, where I was like in that position of I had borrowed the maximum amount I could across 2 credit cards, and I was still living beyond my means. And I think I had this point where I realised I could either work out a plan to pay this off and to get myself in a better position, or it was this weird feeling where it would almost feel more achievable to actually just let myself become comfortable with the financial position I was in. Like, genuinely, £8,000 to pay off when you have mortgage. We had a renovation project at the time. We had full-time childcare bills. The cost of living was like huge. You know, our heating and electric bill was just through the roof. We were in an old property, and I remember just thinking, like, it's just so unachievable. Like, I might as well just get used to this and be comfortable with having such a stressful situation. And I'm so glad that I didn't let that happen, and that I didn't let this idea of this money to pay off kind of just become my normal, or like what my finances would be. I just knew I didn't want that to be the case, and I'm glad I pushed through with that. So if you've had that feeling before, like, please know that I did too, and I was able to like work out a plan and get things better. But I can totally understand that feeling of, like, you know, people who live in overdrafts, people who live with credit cards, and sometimes it's just this weird mental thing of you just put it to the back of your mind because it feels more achievable to actually just be comfortable with that. And I think you've got to really, really, really push to make yourself feel so uncomfortable in seeing it, and it's so confronting, and it's not nice, but that will push you through, trust me, or at least I hope. That's what happened for me anyway. Then going on to making a plan. Okay, I've learned so much about myself in doing this as well. Like, I'm very goal orientated, so in order for me to kind of feel motivated to do this, having a breakdown of a month by month of exactly how much I would overpay and exactly what I would cut down on across my lifestyle, because so much had to go, right? I was just, yeah, so much had to go, and I can talk about that in another video if you want to know what I've changed in my lifestyle and everything. So in order for me to kind of stick to that per month, I had to know that in November this would be the balance on my credit cards. In December this would be the balance, and I just built it out like that. I remember reading a book ages ago where it said, like, you break everything that seems huge, you break it down into small manageable chunks. And that's what I did. I broke everything down, and I do this now for my savings into like a month by month view, and it feels like £8,000 then isn't £8,000, it's £300 that month, it's this the next month, and stuff like that, and it would just get so much better. If you would like to know exactly how I tackled paying off my credit cards, I can do. Since then, I've learned that there's methods to it. You can do like a snowball method, you can do another method and stuff. I started at the highest interest and worked my way down. But I think it's all about behavior with money. Snowball methods, and I can talk about it in another video if you want. It's around building that sense of achievement with paying them off. You start small and you build. And for me, I got that sense of achievement anyway by going like fully in and being like, okay, I'm not going to build savings, I'm not going to do this, I'm going to pay off these credit cards. Next step after that, as emergency savings, and I just went like fully in on it. But that worked for me, and it was amazing to see that the targets I'd set myself every single month was being met. That gave me a sense of achievement, and it kept my ambition and my motivation going. And then the next thing you knew, it was the end of a year, and then it was halfway through the next year, and it was happening. And it was so nice to see. So yes, having a plan of exactly how I would pay it off and having it all in one view, a very honest picture of what my money looked like, was just so crucial. Like, there is another thing that I think is really worth mentioning here, and that is what I've learned about myself in this as well, is not beating myself up too much if one month looks different to how I planned out, because that is just real life. I have moments where the ambition was like met, it was so fulfilling, I felt motivated, but if a month ended up looking different, it would be really hard, and I would feel really like just crap that whole month basically. So I do think I've learned a lot about like giving yourself a bit of grace as you're going through this as well, and just making sure that you're aware. It's like getting that balance right. It's pushing yourself to do it and pushing yourself to keep doing it, but so that you don't fall back or you don't just sink back into old habits and stuff. But also just being aware that, you know, if something happens that's beyond your control, if like your car needs fixed, if your boiler breaks or something like that, you might not have been able to pay off that much debt that month, and that's okay. You go back again the next month. Next up, after paying the debt off, was building my emergency savings. Now, my emergency savings, I wanted to get to around like 2.5-3 months worth of income. And I had, again, I just did the same approach. I had like my time frame for when I would like to have that done, when I knew it would be possible. And I had cut back on so many outgoings that it just felt so much more manageable to actually be able to do. Like, I didn't have minimum payments on the credit cards, which were actually quite high. I paid off my phone contract because that was just huge per month. I can speak to that if you want, because I've learned my lesson with getting involved in those types of contracts now. So my phone went down from being like 60 or 80 to £20 a month. Loads of things like that. We got a lot better at budgeting our food shops. We got a lot better at planning for when we would buy Ivy's, my daughter's, like clothes for winter, what she needed for summer, like how we would do it, because I was just reactively shopping. I was just, you know, yeah. So I've got a lot better at that, and then it meant that I was able to put a lot more towards my savings, and I just felt like things were going a lot smoother. It was actually really like, once that debt was paid off, I truly couldn't believe it, and then I started seeing the savings build, and it was just incredible. Like, and what I want to say to this is that what you end up having once you have your emergency savings, this is why I think they are such a key point to try and like understand as something to build up and something that's really worth having. Really, normal life, I feel like, can sometimes set you over your income for the month. Like, particularly with where we are now with like the cost of things and stuff, like honestly, there have been like, it's rarely been a month where something hasn't come in that set us that little bit over, and I've had to like calculate like how much I've dipped in. I've dipped in 150, that has to go back in the next month. Like, it's just insane. So truly having some emergency savings there has just been so key. If anything, I want to build them up a little bit more, just to know that they're there. If you would like to know how I have placed them, like I split them across 2 different high interest savings accounts, because those savings have to sit there for quite a while, so the best thing that they can do is accumulate interest. If you want to know all about that and stuff, how I've done it, how I've approached it, please do just ask. I'd love to chat to it, because like I say, everything has been self-taught. And so that brings me up to where I'm at now. I have the credit cards paid off and the emergency savings built up, and I'm now building like saving pots for the next year of key things that I know I want to save for. And I can go into exactly what those saving pots look like, what they're for, how much I'm putting away each month for them, and yeah, where I hope to be in the next year. For instance, having Christmas sorted and saved up for a year ahead, because it is currently November 29th and this Christmas is coming out of this month's income, and I'm just so excited and so happy to be at a point where, you know, our holiday has a saving pot, Christmas has a save. Like, I didn't think I'd ever get to this point where I wasn't reliant and needing on a credit card to have the lifestyle that we have. I've had to change my lifestyle, I've had to cut back, but to be able to actually have things like a holiday, Christmas come round and not feel a sense of stress is just insane. And to know that next year it's going to be even better, and hopefully the year after that even better. Please do follow along if you would like to see any more about exactly how I've done that journey, if you would like to see any more about just how I manage every month. As I've said, every month feels like there's something new. But yeah, I just want to be completely open. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not here to be kind of giving advice on large topics. I'm just a normal person who has had what I would say is actually a very, very common experience with money. This is hopefully going to be a nice place for us all to actually like get to chat about these things every month, and I hope you enjoy. Any questions, please let me know, and I'll see you in the next video.